Ali Drew for Pro Boxing Fans, and I'm joined by Mr. Eddie Hearn. Had the press conference today, the Joe Cordina, in his hometown again for another world title shot. How important is this to become two-time world champion when he's never lost a fight?
I know. I mean, frustrating the way he lost it. Unfortunately, the IBF followed the rules. The rules were unfair to Joe, but it was part of him getting his shot in the first place. So it was hard for him to take, but I promised him we'd be back here for a chance to win it again. I wanted it to be Zhilei Zhang, but it's Rakhimov, who's a tremendous fighter, very tough. And he's all there for Joe. You know, it's harsh because you shouldn't have to have the pressure of trying to win a world title again when he did it so clinically against Ogawa, but it is what it is. It's there for him, and I think it'll be a great fight. Rakimov's super tough, rugged, strong, but I think the style is going to suit Joe, and I believe he stops him on Saturday night.
There wasn't much from Rakhimov at the press, so he didn't say much. Yeah. Joe seems very confident going in as challenger again, but we saw what he did as challenger last time. So he wants to do the job on Saturday and then go on to unify. He's got ambitions of bigger things.
Yeah, and I think at his age, he's still in his absolute prime, but he's not going to be interested. I mean, the Zhilei Zhang fight, if he wins in style on Saturday, is a great fight, but at the same time, you know, Joe wants to unify the division. Shavkat Stevenson's not there anymore, which was a shame because that would have been a big fight. But there are accessible unification fights available for Joe if he wins on Saturday.
How do you see the fight going? What do you think he's going to get him out of there early?
Yeah, I do. I think he can stop him at any time. But Rakhimov is. I mean, Zhilei Zhang hurt him in the fight, and he has speed. And Freddie Roach says he thinks Rakimov's faster than Joe. No chance. And I think Joe wants to do enough damage in the first part of this fight. See, Zhilei did a lot of damage to Rakhimov, but he was too strong and too fit to overcome it. You don't want this fight going into 7, 8, 9 rounds with Rakhimov coming on strong. You either got to stop him or put enough dent in him to stop him being a force in that back end of the fight. And if it goes late, it's going to be tough and it's going to be hard and ugly for Joe. So I would like to see a Ogawa-esque knockout. Would be nice to get the job done early.
Another fight happening later that night, Tank Garcia over in Las Vegas. What is your prediction for that fight? I mean, it's great that it's finally happening because it's been talked about for a long time.
Can't wait. Brilliant fight. So important for boxing. I've gone kind of backwards and forwards. When it was first made, I was like, there's no way Tank loses this fight. Then I started speaking to even like Canelo, Eddie Reynoso, Shavkat Stevenson was at my show, Devin, and they give Ryan a great shot in the fight, which sort of made me think, oh. But then I started analysing it again, and that's when you know you got a great fight, when you're going backwards and forwards. And I just think that as long as Gervonta doesn't give him too much respect and make it rangy, I see him stopping Ryan Garcia between rounds 6 to 9.
Just want to ask you about a few comments you've made. We saw the heavyweight fight at the weekend, Joyce. You've been quite vocal since, saying you don't think he's elite level. Do you still agree with that this many days on since the fight? And does that mean that you don't think that Zhang is elite level?
He's not. I mean, he's never beaten an elite heavyweight. You can't. You can have the ability to be elite, but until you've mixed it with the elite heavyweights, you can't say you are. I promoted Zhilei Zhang for 6, 7 fights. Really nice guy. Good fighter. Not an elite heavyweight. He's nearly 40. He's a big lump, who's a decent southpaw. Not elite at all. The reason that I made those comments is because when you got people like Joe, when you got the media, when you got, listen, it's Frank and George's job and people like that, but telling us he'd steamroll Anthony Joshua, he'd stop Tyson Fury, he'd do all this thing, and then you go in and perform like that and show what you are. Like, this is the reality about Joe Joyce. World-class heavyweight, tremendous energy, tremendous engine, might have good energy as well, I don't know him that well. Great chin and very strong. It's all very well selling your attributes on you can keep on hitting me and I just keep on coming. When you're 37 years old, you can't. That was so uncomfortable to watch on Saturday. I think, I know it's like, if he doesn't rematch Zhang, he should retire. He's taken so much punishment in the sport, from amateurs to sparring on Saturday night. Like, at what point you just say, just keep, he has no defence. You talk about speed. I saw Joe Joyce's interview where he said, Zhang was fast. He's not fast. See how fast AJ or Deontay Wilder is. And look at what those guys would do to Joe, particularly the likes of, Alexander Usyk. Like a chronic mismatch against Joe Joyce. People talk about the size. He wouldn't even see him. And I hope...
They fought in the amateurs, didn't they?
Yeah, but again, and by the way, how did that go? I know Joe did okay, but you're talking about now, he wouldn't even catch catch him. I mean, he'd just get pinged from everywhere. Not as big a puncher as Zhang. But those guys are elite. They've mixed it at elite level. They've been there. Sometimes people want to criticise, but you break down the resume of Joe Joyce, and his best win is Joseph Parker, who once was a world champion about 5 years ago, and had 50-50s with Derek Chisora. I mean, you saw him against Jack Massey recently. He's not an elite heavyweight, so I like Joe Joyce. I think he's really entertaining. I watched the fight. I really enjoyed it, and I look forward to watching a rematch. But when I hear him say things like, maybe I'll have a little warm-up fight first, you're 37 years old. If you can't beat Zhilei Zhang, you ain't beating any of the top guys. So he should do the rematch, and he might win the rematch if he moves his head a little bit more. And he was on the way to wearing him down. He just took too much punishment.
Well, talking of the elite heavyweights, as you say, there's been so much talk around December, this tournament, maybe not a tournament, maybe just the super fights that we are wanting. AJ has said he's not going to be fighting until maybe December, even though there was talk of the summer. What do you make of the fact that he said he's not fighting until December? What is that about? Is that because of this super fight?
That's probably a reaction to the possibility of a Wilder or Fury fight in December. I want him to fight in July. He wants to, and I think his training team do as well. So there's absolutely no decision in that respect. But next week we'll go to Saudi Arabia. There hasn't been any negotiations about this super night, but there's been discussions and it's been mentioned. But until we sit in front of them next week, one thing you haven't got to worry about is Anthony Joshua will fight Wilder or Fury, no problem in December. We have to agree to deal. We've done it many times with Skills Challenge. They're great people to work with. There won't be any problem for us on side of that deal. They need all four people to accept. And I think, I can't speak for Tyson, but I know the other three will accept. So hopefully, and Tyson looks like he's fighting July 22nd, but hopefully that night would be historic. But I would still like to see AJ fight in July.
Well, Fury said the tournament was a load of rubbish, so...
Well, it's definitely not.
Okay.
I mean, I wouldn't be going out to Saudi next week just for a laugh. They want to open negotiations for that night, and we're ready to start.
And he's fighting, as you say, in July. What fight do you think that's going to be?
I think he'll fight Andy Ruiz, which is, I know it's not the fight people want, but still, it's not horrendous. AJ beat him every round in the second fight. We won't talk about that. And Tyson will probably do the same. But Andy's a good guy, good world-class heavyweight, and I think it's a fair opponent.
Your thoughts on the comments from Leonard Ellerbe that you've got no stars, he doesn't want to work with you, and no stars on your roster?
World Championship this weekend. 2 weeks, we're in Guadalajara in front of 60,000 for Canelo Alvarez, another one of our fighters. Last week, 2 weeks ago, we had Anthony Joshua. He's about to maybe fight Deontay Wilder in one of the biggest fights of all time in boxing. Katie Taylor's having a record-breaking event in Ireland coming up. Apart from that, no stars at all. I mean, this guy... He got binned off by Gervonta Davis. He popped up in the background because they gave him a couple of grand to turn up with a silly beard on. Just so irrelevant. But listen, when it's fight week, you have to understand one thing. Talk about Eddie Hearn.
Well, he says he doesn't want to work with you, but would you want to work with him?
Don't care, really. Of course, if it was in the benefit of our fighters. But tell me a fighter that he represents or Mayweather Promotions represents that I could work with. Or tell me one fighter.
I don't know currently because
that's because no one's ever heard of them. They don't have one fighter on their roster that you have ever heard of. And it's not just you, Ali. I just asked another member of the media. I said, tell me a fighter that is signed to Mayweather Promotions. They couldn't tell me either. So, there you go.
Good point. And just finally, before we finish, Conor Benn, it's just come out that he's been charged by UKAD. Did you know about that? What do you make of it?
I know absolutely... Sorry, Dan, you walked straight in front of the camera there, mate. I know absolutely nothing about it. I had a call 2 days ago from Matt Christie at Boxing News who says, can you comment on the suspension of Conor Benn from UKAD? I said, I have absolutely no idea what you're talking about. I came off the press conference here today from an article from the Daily Mail telling me about some suspension. Myself, and I went straight to Tony Sims. We have had no correspondence or notification from UKAD at all. This is supposed to be, I guess, some kind of confidentiality, but why am I being alerted of all the news by the media? Amir Khan failed a drugs test for 14 months. The media didn't even know about this. Now, every move that UKAD or the board make, I'm being told before it's even been made by the media. So we'll have to look into that as well. But until I speak to everybody, I need to speak to Robert Smith and UKAD. I think they've made a statement, but it's just interesting that the media seem to know before we do. which is bizarre. But what I can tell you is I know that the document has already been shared with UKAD, and now he's going through that process, which I guess people will be happy with.
Well, thanks for your time today.
No problem. Cheers.